Welcome into another edition of Quick Hit Bears. I'm your host, Grayson Grunhafer. Today, we are talking about BYU transfer Clark Barrington. This is a guy who I think many people are very excited about. He transferred from BYU along with his brother Campbell. Both of them are expected to play huge roles along the offensive line this next season. A huge congrats to Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes for continuing that relationship with the family and with these guys. And then I know Eric Mateos coached Clark, didn't quite coach Campbell, but knew both of them well and knew their family and was able to land them. So Clark, a very interesting prospect. He was in the 2016 recruiting class for BYU. He's old. He's an older dude, that's for sure. And he went on his mission trip during his time in Provo. So he's going to bring a veteran leadership to this Baylor roster. I mean, if you just do the math, if he was in the 2016 class, that probably puts him around 25, 26 years old. So definitely a veteran for Baylor up front. The 6'6", 305-pound prospect mainly started at left guard during his time at BYU. He made his first start in 2019, and then according to PFF, in the 40 games that he started, he only allowed 2 sacks during his time at BYU. Really, really impressive. He's a guy that's got 1 year of eligibility, so you know he's going to try to make it count during his time at Baylor.
Yeah, honestly, no center. Most of my starts came at left guard, some at right guard, back in freshman year. So
playing inside, does that help a little bit? No,
I think so. Yeah, for sure. It's an easier transition than going from tackle to center for sure. But yeah.
So again, he was primarily left guard there at BYU. And so now he's flipping over to center for the Bears. And this is a position that I talked about a whole lot going into the spring. And that's, this role that Baylor needed to fill. They have Timothy Dawn on the roster, but they really needed someone who could come in, be a starter, be a veteran presence, kind of like Jacob Gall was for the last 2 years for this Baylor roster. So they looked, explored options in the portal, ended up taking Clark and Campbell. Campbell, more natural tackle. Clark, an interior guy. So they found out a way, hey, let's give him reps at center. Let's see how he does. Obviously, that's where he's starting at right now during the spring. And I mean, it's an interesting thing because I think they're going to look at him, see how he does, and then if he struggles, then I think they could turn to the transfer portal because he can be an all-league type player at guard. So if he's struggling at center, they might decide to try to make a move in the transfer portal to, again, add another veteran presence while also filling a position of need and potentially putting Clark in a better position to succeed. But I'm very curious how he adjusts. I will say, he's an older guy, so it's really important to keep that in mind. And he's a guy that Eric Mateos, I think, really believes in and believes that he can adjust, develop, and really just be fine at any position. But at this time, it's going to be that center role. I think Clark is a student of the game, a guy who's going to be able to adjust. Again, I think this is perfect for the roster because it gives Timothy Dawn time to just get better. And he's a guy who they have a lot of hopes in. They think he's going to be a really, really good player, and I think he's going to be a really good player. But giving him another year, I think, is very, very important. Clark only has 1 year left. So, again, perfect fit in my eyes. Clark also talked a little bit about the offensive line group as a whole. So let's dive into that.
Just like Coach was saying, it's a bunch of athletic freaks in the room and a bunch of young guys that know what they're doing and they're able to do it. And so I think, the ceiling for the O-line and our group is sky high, and I'm excited to see where we go.
So, I mean, this is great to hear, right? Because we knew that 2022 class was loaded with a lot of guys that were really good. But you wondered, could they take a big step forward? How are the other guys on the roster developing, whether that's a Wes Tucker in this most recent class or Tate Williams from a few classes ago? These guys who are athletic freaks, but how would they grow and develop under Eric Mateos? And, I mean, they both, Eric Mateos and Clark Barrington, spoke very highly of this group. When you're looking at guys like Tate Williams, Caden Siraki, Alvin Ebosele, George Maye, Colton Price, Timothy Dawn, Wes Tucker. All these guys are very, very intriguing prospects, and they're continuing to grow and get better and better. Tate Williams right now is a guy who I think is going to be a starter for this team next year. probably at right guard. Caden Saraki is battling with Elijah Ellis for that starting right tackle role. And then George Maye, another intriguing guy who could find himself inside that top 8 rotation, potentially even become a starter by the end of the year. So I really like what they're building. And that's before guys like Sean Tompkins even gets on campus, who might be the most talented of anyone in the Baylor offensive line room in my eyes. So a really talented group that's continuing to grow, continuing to add quality young depth. And I think that's so important to what Eric Mateos is building. And I was happy that Clark Barrington really saw that and gave his insights, because he's been around a lot of really, really good offensive linemen and really good offensive line rooms during his time at BYU. So to hear him talk about the ceiling of this group and how good they can be, I mean, he wouldn't just say that unless he truly believed in the talent in the room and the guys that they have in that room to go along with the leadership portion of that. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. This has been Quick Hit Bears.